Hello and welcome to this episode of Self-Made. I'm your host, Dee Brown CEO. Joining me on the show today is a doctor and actor. Please help me welcome Wendell James. Wendell, welcome to the program.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, man. Glad to have you on the show.
How are you?
Look, you have a pretty interesting background, so we got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. I want you to take me back to Warren, Ohio, and just talk to me about your childhood and what it was like growing up there.
Well, my father was in and out of the house, so and there was a lot of domestic violence between him and my mom. So there was a total of 6 kids, and all of the 4 boys, 2 girls. All of the boys, ironically, none of us stayed at home and graduated from high school. My 2 sisters did. My one brother left home at about 15. Another brother left at about 13, 14. Another brother left at about 14. And I left when I turned 15. And you know, when you leave home at 15, you don't have a high school diploma, and you haven't finished high school or anything like that. I was out there on the streets. I ran to my father wherever he was living. He didn't really want to be a father. So he put me off on other relatives. I would steal the money from the other relatives, then run to another one. Then I got tired of being shuffled back and forth. And I ended up just on my own, first, I think on the streets of New York, then on the streets of Los Angeles.
Wow. Now,
and
no, I was just going to say at that early age, there had to be a frightening experience. I mean, what was, or was it? What was that like for you? Just being that young out on your own, and how did you survive?
I'm just going through life, man, on the streets, tried prostitution. That didn't work for me, because standing outside in the cold begging for somebody to give me some money, that didn't work for me. I said, no, I can't do this. So that didn't work. And then, the difference between me and other people is I wanted something else, and God showed me something else. So probably at about 17, I said, I need to get my act together. So I worked and got a GED, and I'm still on the streets. So then I go into the Army. I waited till I was 18. I go into the Army. Now, the same size I am at 62, this is the size I was at 12, 13, 14. I haven't really grown. So I'm still skinny and all of that. I didn't want to be in the Army. I'm not tough and rough and all that, but it was a way to get off the streets. That's on many a nights I laid on that bunk and I cried and cried and cried, like, what in the world am I doing here? But I went into the Army, and back then you could sign up for 2 years, and I waited till I was 18 because that way I didn't have to have my mother's permission. I could just sign on my own. So I did that. Then I got out, and I was about 20 when I got out. Went in at 18, was out at 20. And, then I said, I got to get myself together. And so I started going in and out of school. So first I got an associate's art degree. Then I went and got a bachelor's degree in behavioral science. Then I got a master's in education. Then I went and got a PhD. So I've had a doctorate degree, I don't know, for a long time now, ever since I was in my 20s.
Wow. So take me back to just right before you went to the Army and you're out on the streets. Where would you live? Like, what would you do for food? What was that experience like?
I slept in doorways. The stuff you see on the streets now. Now the homeless that you see is just more abundant than what we used to see, but it was going on back then too. So I slept in doorways. I slept in doorways. I slept in alleyways. I met people who would give me $1 here or there. I would turn in cans, stuff like that. And, and I didn't, I just went through it. I really didn't, I wasn't out there feeling scared or anything. I was just out there just living like that.
Right. And so how did the Army, how did that change your life or impact your life?
The truth of the matter is, I don't think it changed my life. Well, it got me off the streets, which is why I went in, and it gave me some money. You got your check.
Yeah.
Other than that, I hated it. Well, I did learn how to take apart an M16 and put one back together. Now ask me how many times have I used an M16, since learning that in basic training. But nonetheless, the discipline part, I was sort of kind of, because of the way I grew up, and I do have a lot of my mother's traits that don't nobody owe you anything, and you got to make it out there and all that. I sort of had those traits at a young age, even going into the Army. So the best thing it did for me, it got me off the streets and gave me money at the time when I didn't have no money.
So you get out the Army, you go back to school, you get your associate's degree, bachelor's, master's, PhD. Take me on your professional journey that you went on post-Army that kind of landed you to be in acting and in the mental health space.
Well, first of all, I was living, back then they had what's called general assistance. That's welfare. But if you was a single man, you could get general assistance. That means you got, about $100 worth of food stamps. And that was when the food stamps looked like paper money, and they were blue and green and red and, all them different colors. And then I would take my food stamps and go to one of the Asian stores and sell them $100 worth of food stamps, and they would give me, $40 in cash. So we were doing that back then. And so I would sell my food stamps, but you also got vouchers to live in a residential hotel. So I was living in residential hotels, and I had long hair, so I would take a fork, living in the hotels. I would take an iron that you iron your clothes with. I would turn it on high, turn it upside down, put my fork on it, rub my fork in butter, get the fork hot, and then I would run it through my hair and press my hair. I would get cans of Vienna sausage and put it right here, and that would cook my sausage. And then I would take it and iron my clothes. So you didn't know you could do that, huh? Yeah. These are the things you come up with. In my hotel, you could open, my room was on the roof. So I would open the roof. I would open my window. The roof was right there. So I would open the window and I would put the milk on top of the roof. And that's how the milk stayed cold and, your cold stuff stayed cold. Really? And I was doing that. Yeah. I was doing that. And then I said, and that was in LA. So then I said, I'm going to go to, I had never heard of Oakland, California, but I'd heard of San Francisco. So I said, I'm going to go to San Francisco. So I took my general assistance. I told the worker I'm moving to San Francisco, and they transferred my GA, which gave me the hotel voucher in San Francisco. And so I got a room in the Tenderloin area. And you can look up Tenderloin area. You'll see that's one of, it's off the chain now. So, but there's a lot of homeless and stuff still in the Tenderloin area. So I was in the Tenderloin areas, staying there, and then I would go to the clubs. I met somebody going back and forth to the bars at night. I don't even know if I was old enough to be in there, but there I was. And I don't really drink, but I was going in the bars. So I met somebody because I was much younger and firmer back then, so I was a lot cuter. So I met somebody, and and I would see them every week that I was going to the bars. So one day they said, they offered me a better life than, where I was living, because I was living in a hotel. They had an apartment in Oakland. So I said, oh, okay. Now, one thing I will put a pin right here and say to people. Now, for me personally, being kept would not work for me, because I'd be put out in the streets in about 2 seconds because of my mouth and my attitude. So they, when somebody doing for you, you got to jump to when they say jump. And I love the Lord, but I cuss a lot. So being kept won't work for me because of my mouth. But nonetheless, I moved to Oakland because I was offered better housing, but that we have to date and all that. I said, well, I really don't care for you. And I was just honest, because I'm just like that. I really don't care for you, but okay, I'll date you and live here in your apartment because it's better than being on welfare. So I did that. And I was told I never have to work, but that didn't work for me. because there again, I got to jump to your music and I don't do well like that. So I was still running in and out of school, working on degrees and all that. And then I got a job. I don't even know how I got the job, I applied for it, but I applied for a job as an assistant working with developmentally disabled adults. And that was my first introduction in developmental disabilities. And so I did that for years. And then I became a teacher working in the classroom. Then I became a behaviorist. And I worked with the population that the kids wore helmets. They were multiply handicapped, which means the arms were bent like this. We taught them how to run a blender with their elbows. That's multiply handicapped. And we taught them, you know, if you want to say, if the answer is yes, you look to the left. If the answer is right, no, you look to the right. If you don't know the answer, you look straight ahead. That's called communication. And we taught people how to communicate with pictures by making communication boards and stuff like that. So severely handicapped was my background training. Now, now I work with people that are more able-bodied than you and me. You know, it's just their behaviors are off the chain. But they walk, talk, chew gum, sell weed, think they pimps, prostitutes. They do all that stuff now. Back then, I worked with multiply handicapped where they were physically severely disabled as well, and nonverbal, and we changed diapers, you know, and all of that. So that was my training, and I did that for a while.
So how did you?
And then somebody.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So somebody went to my former boss, and at the time there was a push for moving developmentally disabled adults out of state hospitals and putting them in group homes in the community. So somebody went to my former boss and said, Dee, you know somebody that could go into this group home? We're going to pull some people out the state hospital and go in a group home and run a program. So I was recommended. Well, the first time they asked me, I said no, because I was a behaviorist working in a school with children, and I wrote behavioral plans and implemented behavioral plans all day. I wanted that experience. So I said no. I stayed a behaviorist. 6 months later, they came back to me again. And when they came back to me again, my contract at the other school I was at was up. They didn't want to offer me more money. So I said, okay, I'm leaving. And so they said, Wendell, can you go in here, run this program for these adults that have been institutionalized, and can you just do it for 6 months until we find something? 6 months turned into 30 years because it's been about 30 years this year. But what I did is I went in there. They gave me no blueprint. I didn't know anything about running a business, anything like that. They just said, can you go in there and do it? So with the money they gave me, I took that money, hired an assistant. So I'm paying the assistant. And then I'm taking behaviorally challenged adults and I'm putting them on the public bus in Oakland, California. And I'm putting people in wheelchairs on the bus. And so the government agency that asked me to do it, they looking at me like, wow, they were like so impressed. And I'm just doing what I had learned, you know, teaching previously. And so they were so impressed with that. And it's been 30 years.
Wow. So talk to me about your acting career. How did you get involved with acting?
Well, one day in Modesto, California, I was sitting on the edge of the bed. I said two things. One, I need another outlet from working with the population because you can't get burnt out. It's just behaviors. It's just a lot that goes with it. So you can't get burnt out. I said, I need another outlet. So I said that. And then I said, I should go to Hollywood. I got the look. I got the attitude. I got the fashions. I had all that stuff. I had all that stuff anyway. It's not because there's nothing, in my opinion, it's nothing you can manufacture. I think a lot of times it's the it factor. You either got it or you don't. And so, and everything you can't learn in school, and a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the acting career is not in school. You're not going to get it at Juilliard. You're really not. But some of it is just life lesson. So off I went, because people often ask me this question. Well, how did you? And they think I'm going to say something profound. No, I sat at the end of the bed and said, you can do it. And off I ran. Didn't have an agent, didn't have a manager. Got there, got a publicist, and she introduced me to some people around. And everybody was just intrigued with who I was and how I was and what do you do? Because I had the look. So then I started interviewing celebrities because I got a show on the radio. I had a talk show on KCAA radio, and I started interviewing celebrities. And so they said to me, and this is when you don't know, you got to listen. So they said, okay, now when you interview celebrities, they're standoffish and this and that, so don't get too friendly with them and don't come up to them and stand back and stay behind the rope. So the first time I would interview and I'd be da-da-da and I would go like this and da-da. But that wasn't the reaction I was getting from celebrities. Everybody gonna come down that line because I'm dressed like I'm the celebrity and I'm really media. But everybody like, especially the women, they were like, oh my God, where you get them earrings from? And blah, 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 And so one day she's fresh off of reality TV. So I said to my publicist, there's that villain. That's Omarosa. Let's see if we can get her. So I go approach Omarosa. I think she ran. She ran, and her publicist jumped in between me and the other publicist. And I'm like, okay. And I don't know what happened, but Omarosa went around her publicist, and my publicist moved out the way. Me and Omarosa just started talking. I don't know, and that was 20-something years ago. Now she like my sister. But I mean, but had I listened to the people, they were like, oh, don't approach people, da-da-da-da-da. And so a lot of celebrities that I've interviewed, I'm now friends with because I just found that that wasn't people's response to me, that you need to be standoffish and, and they don't want you to get near them and all that kind of stuff. So I've just had a good rapport. And then I started, getting little roles and then some kind of way, I was doing a clothing line and I wanted to promote it. So I didn't even know the woman's name. So I said to my publicist, I said, that's this woman. She's heavy-handed up top. I don't know her name. She's a comedian. So my publicist said, Kim Whitley? I said, yep, that's her. She on BET. Yeah, Kim Whitley. I said, see how much she costs to have her co-host with me this show. So I hired her, so I don't remember what she cost, but I guess I met her price. And so Kim helped me co-host a clothing line, because that was my introduction into Hollywood. She helped me co-host. Some kind of way I became her Hollywood husband. You know what a Hollywood husband is?
Explain it to me.
Do you know what a Hollywood husband? You scared to ask, huh? A Hollywood husband is, she gets all the perks. Kim gets all the perks of a husband. Oh, the car break down, I need a new car. Send somebody in to fix the plumbing. I do all of that, but you ain't got to live with me or sleep with me. That's a Hollywood husband. So I became a Hollywood husband. Then Kim decides to adopt the baby. So then I guess Oprah said, this is the craziest stuff I've ever seen. And then Oprah gets on a TV show because Kim adopts a baby and she got all of us around her. None of us have children, but everybody telling her how to raise her baby. And I guess Oprah said, no, this is the crazy, and everybody fussing and fighting. I guess she said, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then out of that, we did Raising Whitley for 4 years.
Wow.
So it's just been, and if anybody's told me growing Ohio, you'd be employed by Oprah Winfrey, I would have said, oh, you crazy. I'll never meet Oprah Winfrey. So you just never know where life is going to take you.
Right. So what acting role are you most, that you enjoyed the most?
Probably Raising Whitley. That's what even to this day in Hollywood, I'm known as Kim Whitley's Hollywood husband. I'm well known for Raising Whitley because I was, I stood out from everybody else on Raising Whitley. So most people know me from that. People see me now, though, they have to do a double take because I had long hair. But when I turned 60, that was 2 years ago, when I turned 60, I decided to cut my hair. So now when people see me, they'd be like, oh my God, that is you. Because, my hair is now, because for years I had long hair. Then I wanted a new look. So right. That's the most, and even to this day, we were called Kim's Village. We still, even to this day, because when we started that show and Oprah had us doing that show, she had just adopted Joshua. Joshua was 8 months old. Josh was now 12 years old. So we still fuss, we still fight, everybody still got different ideas how to parent him and all that kind of stuff. So we're still doing the same thing.
So what is it like working for Oprah?
I liked it because she knew I like Gucci, so I don't get Gucci gifts on what the rest of them got. I'm just gonna say what I got. I don't think they got anything, but you ain't heard that from me. But anyway, I got, I would get, she was really, and Oprah was really tuned in. She didn't want us faking anything. Like we had a situation where I said to the producers, I said to one of the producers, I said, we were talking off mic, I thought, and we talking on the phone, and we were talking about, the show or the next season or whatever. So I just made a comment to her. I said, I struggle, and she's a white woman, so she don't know about the black religious world. So I said, well, in the black church, I said, black people are the most homophobic. So she was like, really? I said, yeah, there's a race. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're not accepting as white races. Then I said to her, especially if you're black and you're in the church. I said, because you were taught it's a sin, you're going to hell, blah, 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 blah. And that's in doctrine. So I'm just talking about my own personal experience. And I'm just talking about how that's caused me, because I was been indoctrinated to that. And so it's causing me to push away relationships and all of that and sabotage them, because I'm saying to myself, in God's eyes, that's not pleasing, because that's what I've been taught. You're going to hell, blah, 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 blah. So I said this to a producer, didn't think nothing else about it. Okay, now it's time to do, I guess, season 2. My entertainment attorney calls me and she says, okay, Wendell, did you tell one of the producers that you struggle between your sexuality and your religion? And I'm looking like, I think so. I said, oh yeah, I mentioned to somebody. I said, well, how did you know? She said, because she mentioned it to Oprah. I'm like, huh? What? She said she mentioned it to Oprah. So they said they in the pitch meeting. And so usually when you go into the pitch meeting, all of Oprah's people are there, but not Oprah. But they went in this time, Oprah sitting in the back, got nerve to be sitting in the back of her own studio. So they said, what's going to go next season? What's going on with Kim Whitley? What's going on with Joshua? So they talk stuff back and forth. At the end, the producer that I thought she made come, Wendell said, blah, 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 blah. And then they said when Katie said it, they said Oprah stood up and walked to the front of the room. They were like, oh, Lord, what we done did. And so Oprah said, that's true. And that's nothing that we don't talk about. I want you to find out if Wendell's willing to talk about that. And that's how that storyline developed. Because my attorney came back and said, Oprah want to know, are you willing to talk about that? I said, okay. I said, yeah, because it's true. It's because Raising Whitley was about our lives and our reality. And that is my life and my reality. And what really, what I really struggle with even to this day. So that's how that storyline. So Oprah, like, real, let's not manufacture it. And she wasn't gonna let us, I don't know what goes on now, but we couldn't be throwing chairs and bottles and, and all that kind of stuff. And you can fuss, you can't be cussing each other out and stuff like some of these other shows on networks. Right. So that's what I like about it, because I'm not gonna do a show, if you hit me, it better be in the script.
Right.
I'm not doing shows where you jumping on me and popping me and we throwing chairs, because I'm suing everybody. So, I'm just not that desperate to be famous or infamous, So that's what I like about OWN, that what you saw is how we really are, and even to this day. And Oprah was a big supporter of that and being authentic and telling your true stories. So that's what I liked about working with her.
So just to kind of wind the show up, talk to me about really what would you like for your legacy to be? I mean, obviously you've had a great acting career, and you're helping people through your practice, where you have people dealing with all types of mental disorders and disabilities. So what would you like for your legacy to be?
Wow, I'm so young in my legacy. Oh, I would like my legacy to, well, a couple of things. I would like my legacy, A, to be that I'm standing before you, a person that left home at 15, with no high school diploma and ended up with a PhD. And it's not, and let me say what, it's not about looks. Because again, if people are in a circle, most people in Hollywood know, but if people in a circle over here, somebody say, Dr. Wendell, some people will look and say, you a doctor? Because I don't look the tradition. So I always say to people, I said, when I had to walk through your door, I looked a certain way. But I've been owning the door for a long time. So I look in the damn way I please. Because it's not about look. I've had long hair, right? Earrings in my ears. Some people be like, you a doctor?
Hey, Wendell, I hate to cut you off, but we're out of time for this episode. But I do want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Self-Made. And to my viewers, I want to thank you for watching. I'm your host, Dee Brown CEO. And remember, without you, there's no me.